A very good morning to all my dear students. We are in Unit 3, wherein this unit comprises of four parts. Wherein in the first part of this unit, we dealt with presidentship. We understood who is a president, what are his powers and functions, what are the qualifications required for his position, what are the emoluments, salaries, and special privileges conferred on him? And especially, we spoke regarding the powers of the president during the time of emergency. We also spoke regarding the vice president of our country. Next, we moved on understanding about the prime minister of our country and the powers and functions laid on the prime minister of our country. We also spoke regarding the Council of Ministers. In my previous classes, I dealt with the two different houses, which is called as Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, which is called as the lower house and the upper house, or House of People or Council of States. So, in detail, we studied regarding the Lok Sabha, the powers and functions of the Lok Sabha, the composition, the strength. Same way regarding the Rajya Sabha. When we were dealing with Rajya Sabha, we discussed regarding the composition, how is the election procedure, the life of Rajya Sabha, the qualifications required for being a member of Rajya Sabha, and the chairmanship or the chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, this was the only topic which was remaining in the third unit, which deals regarding the powers and the functions of the parliament. So, when I speak about the composition of parliament, it is subdivided into three categories. That is the president of our country, which we have already dealt for around 3 classes. Next, Lok Sabha, that is House of People. And in yesterday's class, we spoke regarding Rajya Sabha. So today, we are going to study about the powers and the functions of the parliament. So there are about, you can say, 15 to 16 functions of a parliament. So you have to write heading and explain in 2 to 3 lines in your own words. Okay? So the first function or the power of the parliament is legislative function. Students, when I speak about legislation or legislative function, in simple language, it means that the parliament has the power or the parliament carries out the function of making a laws, and very importantly, it enacts laws also whenever there is a need of R. Once more, I'm telling you all, when I speak about legislative function, Legislative function, in short, means the parliament of our country has a right to make laws, has a power, carries out a function of making laws, and very importantly, enacting laws also. So, the first and the foremost function of the parliament is it makes laws and it enacts laws also. Students, the constitution of our country divides the different subjects of legislation into three lists. There are particularly three lists, and the constitution has divided the subjects into this particularly three lists. One is the union list, the other one is state list, and the third one is concurrent list. So the parliament has the executory, or you can say exclusive right to make laws on the subjects of union list, on the subject of state list, and very importantly, it has also the powers to make laws on the concurrent list. Other than this, the legislative function of the parliament is to make laws on the residuary subjects. Means, when I speak about residuary subjects, students, there are some subjects which the constitution has not included in these three types of list, that is union list, state list, and concurrent list. If there are no subjects which are mentioned in these three types of list, the parliament also has a right wherein they can make laws, they can enact laws even on the subjects which are not included in these three types of lists. So the first function of the parliament is the legislative function. So when I speak about legislative function of the parliament means the parliament has the power to make new laws, and very importantly, the parliament has the power to even enact some laws. Next, now the parliament has the right over making laws on which subjects? The parliament has the right to make laws on the subjects mentioned in the three lists by the constitution. The constitution provides three types of lists. First one is the union list, the second one is state list, and the third one is concurrent list. So all the subjects relating to unions are included in the union list. All the subjects relating to the state list are included in, or state matters are included in the state list, and a blend of both is being included in the concurrent list. Apart from this function, if there are some other, you can say, subjects which are not mentioned in this three type of list, the parliament has the right even to make laws and to enact laws even on the subjects which are not mentioned in these three types of lists. Okay? Let us understand now the next function or the next power of the parliament. The next power of the parliament is the parliament has control over the executive. Students, as you all know, from the beginning of the, you can say, unit, or you can say from the first unit, I have told that our country has adopted a parliamentary form of government. right? And we have a parliamentary democracy, which means that the government, that is, when I speak about the control over executive, it means that the parliament has the control over the government. And when we say that we have adopted a parliamentary form of government, it means that the government is accountable to all the people or all the citizens of the country. Students, both the houses, that is upper house as well as lower house, which is called as Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, controls the executive in various methods. Now, when I speak about control over the executive, it means that the parliament has control over the executive. The parliament has control over the government because we have adopted a democratic form of government or parliamentary form of government wherein the government is responsible for the, or you can say the government is accountable to each and every citizen. Now, when I speak about both the houses, that is Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, it has control over the government through various methods, wherein they can ask questions regarding the ministers. Both the houses have a right wherein they can question regarding the portfolio, that is, responsibilities given to the ministers. And the houses have a right wherein they can also ask questions regarding matters in general. So when I speak about the control over the executive, both the houses have a control over the executive, and very importantly, during the need of the hour, they can discuss the matters of emergencies, or you can say they can discuss the matters which are urgent in nature. They can go in for appointment of various committees. And if you all remember, when I'm speaking about the Lok Sabha, I said that the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible for the Lok Sabha. Wherein I said that the Lok Sabha even has the power to, you can say, disapprove or dismiss any ministry if the ministry is found in conducting any defection. The Lok Sabha even has a power wherein it can pass a motion wherein the ministry has to resign in case if the majority feels that there is some sort of defection which is taking place. Now, when I speak over the parliamentary form which has control over the executive, once more I'm repeating, parliamentary form or parliament has control over the executive means the parliament has control over the government. That means that the government is kept under check, or you can say the parliament supervises the government, it monitors the government. Very importantly, if you all know, there are different debates on the proposed budget And very importantly, these debates are conducted so that there is cut, or you can say there is a check on this proposed budget or expenditures of the government. Students, it is mentioned in the constitution that if the parliament does not approve the proposed budget, it is considered as a vote of no confidence and it is against the government. The parliament has a control on the government, which means that it keeps a check, it keeps supervision, or it monitors the functioning of all the ministers. And the parliament not only has a check on all the ministers but includes even the prime minister of our country. The parliament has a check in a form of wherein all the activities undertaken by the government are kept in executive alert. When I speak about the power of the parliament, it controls the working of the government. It helps to keep a check on the government. It monitors the working of the government. Parliament plays a very important role in the execution of the governmental, or you can say authoritarian rule of government. Next, when I speak about the financial powers, students, the parliament has absolute power and it has absolute control over the financial matters of the country. All the monetary matters, all the financial matters, it has absolute right. Now, when I speak about what rights or what powers it confers, now when I speak about the parliament having absolute right over the financial powers, it means that the parliament sanctions money to the government, and when it sanctions money to the government, it sees to it that there is proper functioning or proper working of the administration. Students, the parliament may pass, may reduce, may reject the demands which are presented to it by the government of the country. It has powers in his hand, wherein, in their hand, sorry, wherein they may pass whenever it is necessary. Pass means give approval. Sometimes they might even reduce the expenditure in terms of financial matters. They may reject, ignore, or directly disapprove the demands which are presented by the government of the country. And when I speak about financial matters, students, very, very importantly, no taxes can be collected, or you can say no money can be spent by the government without the authority of the parliament. So it has absolute powers. Once more, I'm repeating, when I speak about the parliamentary powers over financial matters, it has absolute powers because the parliament is authority which gives or which sanctions money to the working and administration of the government. It has authority wherein it may approve, it may reject, they may even, you can say, reduce the demands which are presented before the government. And very, very importantly, no taxes, or you can say no money, can be spent by the government without the approval of the parliament. Because when I speak about composition of the parliament, it includes the three major organs. It includes the president of our country, it includes the Lok Sabha, and it includes the Rajya Sabha. Without their sanction and without their approval, the government cannot administer, the government cannot execute any executory power or administrative power. Next, judicial powers. When I speak about the parliament, students, it has judicial powers wherein the parliament can go in for regulation of the constitution, they can go in organization, they can decide the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means area. And they also can decide the powers of the court. If needed, the parliament has the authority wherein they can increase the number of judges of Supreme Court. When I speak about judicial power, students, they can even expand the jurisdiction, they can expand the area of high courts. And very importantly, when I speak about the parliament, they can establish a common court for two or more states. Now imagine if there is no high court in a particular state, then it can establish a common high court for two states, and this power has been conferred only to the parliament. Students, you remember when I was teaching your presidentship, I told you a judge can be removed from the office by the president. But very importantly, when the president is removing the judge, it has to be addressed by both the houses, wherein I told you that a majority of members should agree to it. You remember, both the houses, a majority, a resolution has to be passed, then the resolution has to be approved, then the president has a right to remove the judge. Now, sometimes if there is any breach, that is breakage of any parliamentary form of our government, the parliament has the right to take actions. The parliament has a right to punish for contempt of parliament. Means if it is not, or if there are any defects which are found, or if the parliament is not working according to the decided terms and conditions, according to the decided rules and regulations, the parliament has a right to take disciplinary actions. So when I speak about judicial powers, the parliament has a right wherein it can establish high courts, or they can establish a common court for two states. They can make regulations towards the working of the constitution. They can increase the number of judges in the Supreme Court. They can expand the area for, or you can say expand the jurisdiction for the working of the courts. The president has a right to remove the judge of the Supreme Court through a procedure followed wherein I have already explained you that it should be passed from both the houses. A majority of members should agree to the resolution. If any defection has been formed in the parliamentary form, then the parliament has a right to take disciplinary action and take remedial measures. Next, powers relating to emergency. Now, when I was teaching you all presidency, I told you that there are basically three types of emergencies: national emergency, state emergency, and financial emergency. And these emergencies are proclaimed or declared only and only by the president of the country. Now, what happens in case if there is national emergency which has been declared by the president of the country? Students, before declaration, the proclamation has to be laid before both the houses of the parliament. And imagine if the parliament does not approve the proclamation of the emergency within 1 month, then that emergency turns to be ineffective. So it is very, very important that the parliament must give approval to the declaration of emergency. Now, I also told you when there is national emergency, all the powers are centralized in the hands of union government or central government. There is no decentralization of rules. There is no decentralization of powers. You remember, I'd given a hierarchy wherein the central government, then state government, then different districts, etc. But here, what happens during the time of emergency? All the authorities are laid only in the hands of the central government. And very, very importantly, such order has to be passed by both the houses. Sometimes it so happens that during the case of national emergency, the president has the power wherein it can alter the distribution of revenue. Remember, I told you during presidentship that it may alter the revenue which is given or exclusive powers given to the states. But this all powers wherein the powers are altered has to be approved by both the houses, and it has to be approved by the entire parliament. Then only it comes into force. Now, in case of national emergencies, if there is a need of hour, the president has the right to make laws with respect to whole part of our country. And very, very importantly, it should be approved by both the houses. Students, in case of financial matters, if it is declared by the president, the financial matters have to be laid down before both the houses, and both the houses have to approve it before expiry of 2 months. So next is the power to admit, establish or form new states. Students, the parliament has the right wherein they have a power to admit or establish new states. It empowers a special right to the parliament wherein the parliament has a right to either admit means add, establish means frame or form, or sometimes even the parliament has a power to alter means either add or either delete the boundaries of the existing states. That means that the parliament has a right wherein they can increase or they can diminish. They can either add or they can subtract, or they can, you can say, increase or diminish the area of any state. They can alter the boundaries of the states. So this is the special power which has given or which is vested in the hands of the parliament, wherein it can admit means alter, or you can say add. It can form, it can frame new states, And very importantly, it can also alter the boundaries of the state. Next, the next part is adjudication of disputes relating to waters of interstate rivers or rivers valley. Now, students, when I speak about this part, the parliament has a power or has powers wherein they may make any law which may provide adjudication of any disputes, or you can say complaints with respect to use of water, distribution of water, or you can say control of water, or any interstate rivers or matters relating to river valleys. Now, what happens is they may make any laws according to the need of R, wherein if there is a need or if there are any disputes or conflicts arising with respect to use of water, or you can say control of water, the parliament can make new laws. And when this parliament makes new laws, neither the Supreme Court nor any other court shall have or shall exercise jurisdiction or shall interfere in those matters. Now, sometimes it so happens that if there are any disputes or if there are any conflicts relating to water or any river valleys, at that point of time, the parliament has the power to make or to frame new laws. Now, regarding what they're going to frame new laws, they're going to frame new laws regarding the use of water, who should use, which state should use, how should be the distribution of water, how should be the control of water. All this laws or all these regulations can be framed by the parliament of the country. And if the parliament makes new laws regarding the conflicts relating to water, or you can say rivers or river valleys, no court shall interfere in those matters. Even the Supreme Court does not have the right to interfere in the matters relating to adjudication of disputes. Next, power of Parliament to provide for establishment of certain additional courts. Now, students, there are number of courts which are already incorporated or conferred according to the constitution of the country. But the parliament has the power for the establishment of certain additional courts if required. If there are many matters pending in the court, the parliament has a right wherein they can give approval for the establishment of additional number of courts. And these powers are given to the parliament with the sole intention that with the addition of courts, there will be better administration which will take place in our country, students. And there will be proper working of the government. So this is the special power which is vested in the hands of the parliament, wherein the parliament can give approval for additional number of courts if required for better working or administration. Next, electoral function of parliament. When I was teaching you all presidentship, when I was teaching you all about Lok Sabha, when I was teaching you all about Raj Sabha, I already explained you that we have a government wherein we have adopted a electoral college, or you can say we perform electoral functions. We have a parliament wherein we do not select the members but we elect. Every person has a right to vote. Students, the elected members of both the houses, that is upper house as well as lower house, along with the members of the legislative assemblies, form the electoral college which elects the president of our country. Besides, all the members of the parliament also elect the vice president of our country. So, at least about Lok Sabha, you know, there is direct election by the people of the country. But when I was teaching your Raj Sabha, I also told you that when I'm speaking about the, you can say, election of Raj Sabha, no doubt the election takes place indirectly, but the members representing the states are elected by the way of elected members of legislative assembly. So here also, when I'm speaking about Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha, there is election which takes place and not selection. So we have a country wherein we are democratic country. We follow a democratic form or a function of the parliament. Next, the power of impeachment. Impeachment, again, repetition of my presidentship class. The power of impeachment means the power of removal. Students, the parliament has the power of removing the president, and the parliament can remove the president through a process of impeachment. You know, right? What is impeachment? There should be a resolution passed, and if either house is passing the resolution, then the majority of members should agree to it. Then it should be passed to the other house. The other house also should accept that resolution. The president has a right wherein he can come, and he has a right wherein he has a say, or you can say he may be given a chance wherein the president has the right to be heard, or you can say the president will have a right to be defended against the charges against him. When two-thirds of the members of the parliament or both the houses approve, then the president can be removed. Same with that of the vice president. The vice president of the country has been regarded as the chairman of the Raj Sabha, and he also can be removed by the parliament by a majority of its members if they agree upon, and it should be passed even to the Lok Sabha. Both the houses should agree. Majority of the consent should be given, and thus the parliament has the power to even remove the vice president as well as the president of our country. The parliament also has the power wherein they can remove the chief justice and other justice, or you can say the other judges of supreme courts on the grounds of misbehavior. So when I speak about the power of impeachment, it means the power of removal. Next, power to amend the constitution. Students, when I speak about the power to amend constitution, amend means bring changes. The constitution may need to be suitably changed according to the demands of the time, students. The constitution has to be altered, changed. Either there should be addition or there should be deletion. And this can be done only by the amendment of the constitution. So the parliament of our country has the power wherein they can amend the constitution according to the need of the hour. Next, the power to make treaty and international agreements. The parliament has the power to make any laws which are suitable to the whole of the country, or you can say any part of the country or the territory of our country, for making any treaties. If the country wants to go in for any agreements, international agreements with the other countries, or the parliament can make any laws or can take any decisions relating to the international conferences, international associations, etc. Now there are any number of treaties, okay, or there are any number of international agreements relating to business, trading, then safeguarding, etc. and etc. At that point of time, the parliament has the right or power to make new agreements or treaties. Next, the power to abolish or create legislative councils. The parliament has a right to abolish, to discontinue the legislative council of the states. At the same time, they have also to power to create one more chamber of the legislative council. So when I speak about power to abolish, abolish means discontinue, and the power to create means to continue or to start or to commence the legislative council. Next, the power to fix salaries. Students, the parliament has the power wherein they can fix salaries of the members of the parliament. They can fix, they have a power to fix salaries of the judges of Supreme Court as well as High Courts. And they have power to fix and decide the salaries regarding the chairman and members of the public service commissions. So when I speak about the power of the parliament, they decide the salaries of the executive or executive officials. Next, the power to establish administrative tribunals. Now, when I speak about the parliament, students, it has a right wherein they can constitute administrative tribunals, and these administrative tribunals are set up only to establish the disputes regarding, maybe if there is some dispute or if there is conflicts which are arising due to recruitment, or if there is a dispute regarding the conditions of service of any governmental official. The parliament has a right wherein they can provide a law for the jurisdiction area, power, authority of these tribunals, and prescribe the procedure that also has to be followed by this administrative tribunals. Students, there are tribunals which are set up mainly to resolve the issues or conflicts on respect of matters such as maybe foreign exchange, industrial disputes, or labor disputes, land reforms, elections, etc. So the parliament has a right to establish all these administrative tribunals also. Next, the last one, the power to establish all India service. Parliament has the power to establish in the national interest to create any all India service common to all the unions of the states, and a resolution has to be passed in the Council of States to bring that effect. And this establishment can be only done if there is national interest to establish all India service, which has to be provided to all other citizens. With this, we conclude the powers and the functions of the parliament. With this, I conclude my third unit, wherein in my third unit, I started with President of India. We spoke regarding the President, qualifications, emoluments of President, procedure for election of President, vacancy of the President or in the office of President, the impeachment process of the President, next, privileges given to the President, powers and the functions of the President. There were about 8 powers. Then, the role and powers during the emergency. Next, I spoke regarding the Vice President. Then we started with Prime Minister of our country, appointment, powers and functions of Prime Minister. Then Council of Ministers, role of Council of Ministers. Later, composition of Parliament, which includes President, Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha. We spoke regarding the Lok Sabha, life of Lok Sabha, election procedure of Lok Sabha, qualifications required for becoming a member of Lok Sabha, sessions of Lok Sabha, officials and powers and functions of Lok Sabha. Same way with that of Rajya Sabha, composition of Raj Sabha, election of Raj Sabha, life of Raj Sabha, qualifications to become the member of Raj Sabha, chairman of Raj Sabha, and powers and functions of the parliament was the last part which we concluded in this unit. Soon I'll be sending you all assignment in your official groups. With this, I conclude my third unit.